Hey, welcome back. It's been a while since I recorded one of these videos, but I've been playing around with a new text editor recently. This thing, CodeEdit. It's a native text editor for the Mac. If you're familiar with Xcode, it sort of looks vaguely Xcodey, but promises to be a better experience for when you're working on stuff that isn't Apple technologies like Swift. So that was it. So just kind of curious, and I downloaded it. It's all open source. It's on GitHub, obviously. So I downloaded this, and I open it in Xcode. Let me see if I can get Xcode up. There we go. And I was having a play around with it. You literally can do this. I mean, if you've never used Swift or Xcode before, it can definitely feel a bit intimidating. But if you just install Xcode from the App Store, clone the repo, and open the CodeEdit Xcode project file, you end up here, and just click the start button, and you should be good to go. So this is it. So this is Xcode that we're looking at. This is the thing that Xcode just built, which is CodeEdit. This is the tool that I've actually been playing around with. So it's a bit confusing, I think, when you work on like text editors and you've got the text editor that you're building and the text editor that you're using to code the text editor that you're building. And it's testament to how well they've mimicked the look and feel of Xcode that I get completely confused about which window I've got open, which I guess is the intention. Anyway, I've been playing around with this, and it's very nice. The code that you're looking at here, this is the code for a tool called Gibbo that I wrote. Find it on my GitHub repo. Gibbo is a tool for generating git ignore boilerplates. So if you are starting on a new Swift project, you can just type gibbo dump Swift, and it will dump out a standard git ignore boilerplate that includes all the things you typically want to ignore in a Swift project. So you would typically use it like this and do write that output into your git ignore file, and you're good to go. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Gibbo. We're here to talk about CodeEdit. And like I say, it's really nice. And I was poking around, having a look at what it could do. And I noticed this thing over here, the sort of inspector panel. And this is quite nice. And so you've got this option, this tab shows you sort of details about the file that you're looking at. And this one shows you the Git history. But you can see if you click on each of these, you get this really nice little pop-up, lovely animation. I don't know if it'll reflect so well on the video, but it's got a little bounce to it, which is very satisfying. But I noticed for this particular file, version.go, I've got this commit, this sort of ghost commit halfway down the list. Look, it's got sort of no author and no title, and it says it was written right now as I'm recording this. So there's something weird going on there. That shouldn't be showing. So I wondered, like, what is the real commit there that is somehow being mangled? So let's have a look at the git log for this file in the terminal. And we can do that right inside CodeEdit because it's got this very funky little terminal window at the bottom, just like VS Code has. So let's try doing git log. You can see I ran this earlier. Command/version.go, and well, I've got 7 commits there, which is the same number of commits I've got here if you ignore this sort of weird broken one. And there's one, add new line to the end of Gibbo go version output. That's that commit there. And then the next commit is clean up references to Gibbo, and that's that commit there. So this isn't like a real commit that's being mangled. It seems to be a ghost entry. So somewhere in the code for CodeEdit, it's clearly fetching a list of these Git commits, and it's rendering them. And for some reason, it's inserting an erroneous entry in the middle of that list. So I went to have a poke around in CodeEdit to see if I could figure out what the problem was. Now, like I say, I was pretty new to CodeEdit, so I'll just show you on the Git repo. There's a couple of things I really like about this Git repo, actually. The project view is really cool. If you go in here, you can see the sort of like the current milestone and the upcoming roadmaps, and you can dig into open issues in a range of different ways. So you can go by size, let's say. So maybe if you want something small to try working on first, you can go to the tiny column, find something to do in there. There we go. That one sounds pretty straightforward. There's a background colour which is a bit too prominent and needs tweaking. Or you can go by like status, pick something out of the to-do column. It's really nice. I've never really used projects in GitHub, and I really like the way this was organised. Anyway, we're not here to talk about GitHub projects either. If we go back to CodeEdit, one of the other things that I really like is that they've got some documentation about how to get started contributing. So if you zip down to the contributing section, there's a contribution guide. And what I noticed in here was that there's this getting started guide on the wiki. And this shows you that, it talks about how to open the project in Xcode and all of that stuff. This is a great place to start if you've, never used Swift or Xcode before and you fancy trying CodeEdit out. But it also talks a bit about the project structure. It's got this really nice diagram. I always find stuff easier to ingest as a picture rather than as words. If this had been articulated in a sort of bulleted list, it would have scanned right past it. But this is great. So look, this is how they refer to the different parts of the CodeEdit product, and I can see from this picture that the area I care about that's got that git log feature in is the inspector area. That's what it's called over on the right. So armed with that information, I went poking around in Xcode, and it's this folder that you care about, the actual CodeEdit folder. And inside here, it's features. And then look, there's a feature called inspector area. And actually that getting started guide explains a bit about the logic behind this file hierarchy. But there's the inspector area. If I have a look in the inspector area, I've got the file inspector and I've got the history inspector. And I'm going to assume that that's what these two things are called. This is the file inspector and this is the history inspector. That would make sense. And if I have a look at the history inspector and go to the view, we'll start to see a bit of Swift. This is Swift UI, this stuff. So Swift UI is a framework written in Swift for building UIs, as the name suggests. It's kind of a bit like React. If you've used React, React Native or React on the web or anything like that, it's quite similar to that. So historically, Swift apps, you did your layout by sort of specifying, draw this thing at this sort of coordinate location on the grid and all that kind of stuff. And you did a lot of maths, a lot of arithmetic to work out where you were laying things out. Swift UI is much more declarative. So again, similar to the way React works, you can see here. I mean, I haven't really looked at this code, don't know what's going on here exactly, but I can see that there's a group that inside has a V stack, a vertical stack, and that vertical stack has a list, and that list is iterating over a thing called model.commitHistory and showing an inspector item view for each of those things. Do you know what I mean? It's super easy to sort of dig into this and understand a bit about what's going on. So it feels like commit history is probably what's letting us down here, and we could probably inspect this. We'd probably set a breakpoint there, and then go and maybe if I switch tab and switch back, is that enough to trigger? Yeah, here we go, great. So it's triggered the breakpoint, and now, God, it's ages since I've used Xcode, and I can't remember for the life of me where I can find. I should be able to see commit history somewhere. Is it over on the left? I don't think it is. Where am I sort of? Oh, it's down here. It's down here. Look, local. It's in the model, I think. Wrapped value commit history. Yeah, there we go. Crikey, storage, publisher, subject. Boy, oh boy. Current value. It's got 8 values. Well, that sounds right. We said there were 7 commits plus a ghost one. And if I look at these, okay, so yeah, so these are the individual commits. So they have a hash and a commit message and so on and so forth. And was it commit 4? Yeah, look, so commit 4 is just everything's empty. Everything's empty. There's no hash. There's no message. So there's definitely something going on with the way this commit history is being generated. And I wonder if we can figure out here. I'm not sure where the code is that actually sets that commit history, but if I command click on commit history, it'll jump to where it's defined. Okay, and it's defined. So I'm just going to click go here and get rid of that breakpoint so that I come out of debug view. Where were we? Okay, so we go to commit history, and okay, so this is inside the view model. So these are a common thing in Swift UI, if I remember correctly, that you have a view model which is observable, and then your view is associated with the view model, and it works such that if values in the model change, the view can respond to that directly. So we've got the commit history there. Oh, here we go. And we've got update commit history, a function. I'm not sure exactly where that gets called, but this looks like it's probably what I want. So it's doing some setup here, and then it's saying commit history is, we're going to await, so run asynchronously this source control manager.get client.get commit history. That looks like where the trouble is happening. So let's command click through to that. Yeah, and here's get commit history. Okay, all right. And so it looks like this is just calling a get command and then parsing the output. Yeah, and this is not surprising. Git doesn't have a sort of an SDK with it, although there are plenty of well, that might not be true anymore actually. Maybe Git does vend a sort of a developer library, but it never used to. And traditionally, if you were writing code that, you know, used Git, like adding a Git history to CodeEdit, or adding Git functionality to Xcode or VS Code or something like that. You basically had to call the same Git command that you would call at the terminal. You sort of, you know, call a process, run this command, and then parse the output, which is a bit messy. You know, it's the output you just get back as a big string, and then you have to parse it. Whereas if there was a library, oh, that's annoying. Right, I just went into night mode and everything changed colour. Sorry about that. Yes, if you had a library, you could call the library and get sort of structured data back about your Git commits, but Git wasn't really ever written that way, and that's not how it works. And so this is not uncommon to see code that interacts with Git by just running Git commands under the hood. And so and so look, I can see exactly what's happening here. So it's calling git log. This minus pretty is just saying give me the log output in a specific format, and then it's taking that output, it's splitting it on new line characters. That's what \n is, and then for each of those lines, that's what map does. That's like a sort of for each. It's splitting the line by, so that's what this sort of funky, whatever character that is, that's why they're using that very weird character that probably chosen because you're not going to see one of those in the output of this git command normally. You split by those and then do stuff with the output. So let's try running this command at the command line. Where was I? I was in CodeEdit, wasn't I? So do git log that command, that format, sorry, and then the same file. And okay, so it's giving us, so yeah, I mean, like percentage %h, that gives you an abbreviated hash. Percentage uppercase H gives you the full hash. Percentage S gives you the subject, I think that's called, like the first line of the commit message, and so on and so forth. And %B there gives you the body of the commit. So if you wrote more than just a single line as your commit message, then the first line will be returned as the subject and the rest will be returned as the body. And I think that's what's going wrong here, is that for this commit, it did have a body. It was fixes issue number 4. And that body has a new line at the end of it. It's not that obvious. It's not that easy to see in here. Maybe if we oh crikey, oh, what's going on? No, okay, there's something funky going on with the insertion point here. If I'm trying to copy stuff, it's going from a random place halfway through the string. But okay, if I copied and pasted that into VS Code, which I think has a sort of, you know, show invisible characters mode, you would see a little new line at the end of each line. So you'd see one at the end of this chunk. Oh, this is a bit frustrating. Let me just switch into iTerm. All right, so if we go to Gibbo and do git log that thing, there we go. Okay, so this commit is a single line, this commit is a single line, this commit is a single line, but this commit actually branches over 2 lines. There's a new line here just after that #4. And so this code in Xcode, which is saying split the output by new line and then treat each each element, once it's been split as new line as a commit, that's going to be treating this line here as a commit. And when it tries to parse that line to get the hash and the author and everything else, it's getting blank for all of those values, which is exactly what we're seeing in CodeEdit. The author is blank, the details are blank, the title is blank, the subject, everything's blank. So that's what's going on there. Now this is an age-old problem, and the challenge here is because we're trying to parse a big lump of string content, that being the output of this git log command, and hoping that it has a consistent format. And when everything is just a big blob of string, it's very easy for the format not to be what you expect. This is exactly what we're seeing now. Our output has unexpectedly got a new line in this character here, and it messes everything up. And if you have a look at some old Unix tools, there's a Unix tool called Find, for example, and Find has a -print option that prints out the things that it finds. It's for finding files. Use it to like find files under a directory, and you can use -print to print out the files that you find, and it will print out each file on a new line. But it also has a -print0 option, and if you use -print0, it prints the results out with lines separated by a null byte rather than a new line. And that was exactly to help in scenarios like this. Null bytes almost never show up in regular text content, and so splitting on a null byte can be more reliable than splitting on a new line. And it turns out that Git has exactly the same thing. This took me a monstrously long amount of time to find, but if you have a look at git log help, and I'm going to cheat and search for the thing that I know I'm looking for, there we've got a -z option, and if I pass -z, it will separate the commits with nulls instead of new lines. So let's see that in action. Let's do that git log that we ran a moment ago, and these are all new line terminated. And then let's go back and add -z at the start. There, and now you can see they're all terminated with something funky that my terminal is representing as this symbol with a white background. That's the null byte. And so the trick here, I think the fix is as simple as we'll call git log -z. So this is going to give us back a blob of text that we want to split up by null byte now rather than by new lines. And to do that, we just change this separator here. And the way you represent a null byte in most programming languages, if you want it in a string literal, is just do \0. And we can confirm that. I did have a look at this a minute ago to make sure that that's how Swift does it as well. And if we go and have a look at the Swift documentation, and let's have a look at special characters. Here we go. The escaped special characters \0, the null character. And then it tells us some more stuff about escaped special characters. So there we go. \0 will give me a null character. So -z is effectively saying concatenate the results using a null byte, and then this will separate the results by a null byte. And then if our results have new lines in them, that's fine. This should just work. This should be all we need to do. As ever, the proof of the pudding is in the eating, so let's give it a go. Let's run this again. And what's going on? What's going on? Oh, okay. I don't know what that means. I saw that before, but well, I do know what it means, but we don't care. All right, good. So here we are back in CodeEdit. I'll go to version.go, which is the file that was having the problem, and boom, now we've got 7 entries all rendered correctly. And we could try putting a breakpoint in again, couldn't we, and see what we see though, just to satisfy ourselves. Here we go. So, and it was in self, wasn't it? Commit history, storage, publisher, subject. Goodness gracious me, current value. Oh, we haven't created it yet. Right, I see. Let's, okay, let's just do that and keep going. There we go. Oh, it's here, commit history. Okay, cool. And now we've got 7 elements rather than before we had 8, and element 4, or element index 4, so the 5th element is now a real entry, and not a dummy one. So job done. I will put up a pull request for this and see where we get to.